Ready to buy a home in Greece? Let's make sure that your budget stays one step ahead by breaking down all the additional costs quickly and clearly. As most of you probably know, when you buy a house, you don't just pay the price you see on the listing. There are several fees and taxes involved in transferring ownership. In this video, we will go through the additional costs of buying a property one by one. What is mandatory, what is optional, and what is simply good to know. Hi, I am Dee from Elx's at Home in Greece, a real estate company with 35 years of experience helping people find their dream home in Greece. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more insights into the Greek property market. In a previous video, we explained the real yearly costs of owning a home in Greece. But what about the buying process itself? Generally speaking, as a buyer, you should expect about 10% in total on top of the purchase price. Some of these costs are mandatory, meaning you cannot complete the purchase without them. Others are technically optional, but in reality, they're invaluable and almost always applicable. Let me give you a simple example. If the property costs 400,000 euros, the extra costs usually come to around 40,000 euros. So instead of 400,000 euros, you should realistically expect a total budget of about 440,000 euros, not just the listing price. Now, let's start with the fees everyone has to pay with no exceptions. First, we have the inevitable transfer tax, which is 3.09% of the purchase price, so a little over 3%. This is the tax paid to the Greek state when the property is transferred to your name. The transfer tax must be paid before the purchase deed is signed. The notary cannot finalize the sale without proof that this tax has been paid. Next is the notary fee, about 2%. The notary is responsible for preparing the contract and overseeing the signing of the deed. Their fee is not fixed, but it's typically around 2% of the purchase price. The notary is essential because they make sure the transfer is legally binding and properly documented. Third, the cadastre or land registry, about 0.5%. After signing the deed, the transfer must be officially registered at the land registry or the cadastre. This is what legally makes you the owner of the property. The fee for this step is usually around 0.5%, and these three costs combined are mandatory and amount to around 5.5% of the purchase price. Now, let's talk about the costs that are not legally required, but in real life, almost everyone chooses to pay because they protect you during the process. First, let's talk about the lawyer's fee, which is usually 1 to 2%. Hiring a lawyer isn't mandatory, but it's strongly recommended. In fact, it's extremely rare that a property purchase occurs without a lawyer involved. A lawyer checks what exactly you are buying, verifies documents, reviews the property's legal status, and guides you through the process smoothly and safely. Their fee is usually between 1 and 2% of the purchase price, depending on the scope of work. And then there is a real estate agent's commission. If a real estate agent helped you find the property, their commission generally ranges between 2 and 4%, but a typical figure is around 2% for apartments in the bigger cities and around 3% for holiday homes. Of course, if you found the property without using a real estate agent, for instance, if you're buying a house from a friend or a relative, then you don't have to pay this fee. When you add these optional but very useful costs to the mandatory costs, the total moves up to about 10% of the purchase price. And here is something important if you're looking at newly built homes. New properties in Greece bought directly from a developer normally come with 24% VAT. However, Greece currently has a VAT suspension on newly built homes, at least until the end of 2026. Under this scheme, construction companies can apply for an exemption of VAT for their construction projects. In these cases, instead of VAT, the buyer pays the 3% transfer tax. The more information buyers have about acquiring a home in Greece, the better decisions they can make. Understanding these additional costs help you budget realistically and avoid surprises. So, if you are planning to buy a home in Greece, knowing these numbers early makes the whole process much smoother. For more details, click on our blog post in the description below. And if you have found this video helpful, then of course don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop any questions you have in the comments below. See you in the next one.